Kitchen Brain. Kitchen Brain. Kitchen Brain.
I am here with Chef Jeff Potter. Chef Jeff Potter is a pretty important person to me. He was a team member of mine at Farmington when I first started there. He was a cook in our fine dining restaurant and moved over to the saucier position before he moved on to the next chapter in his career. He is now the executive chef of 610 Magnolia, one of Edward Lee's restaurants down in Louisville, Kentucky. And, couldn't be more proud of his progress. I definitely can't take credit for, everything that he's done and accomplished and where he is now. But, it was great working with him, and I wanted to have him on this show. As I say about Kitchen Brain, I could have called Jeff and said, "Hey, man, could you get me an interview with Edward Lee?" And I'm sure he could have, and I probably will in the future. But I really want to emphasize the fact that even though there is maybe a big headliner behind the brand, and the brand wouldn't exist without that headliner like Edward Lee, there are chefs in the trenches and people doing the real hard work of getting this stuff out and making the visions come to life and creating a lot of those visions. And Jeff is one of those guys. So I don't think it's right to not have him on the podcast. I think that he's one of the people that are making it happen every day for a really great and big name restaurant. So I wanted to showcase that and have him on and talk to him kind of about his pathway. And I'll let him talk more about his journey in the culinary world. So how you doing there, Chef?
I'm doing great, Chef.
Good.
Good to be
Good. Yeah. Awesome to have you, man. It's great to see kind of your path since we parted ways and where you are now. It's phenomenal to me. So yeah, really happy that you.
that long ago.
What's that?
It doesn't really seem that long ago. It seems like just yesterday.
No, really, I started at Farmington 6 years ago. So, I guess it really wasn't that long ago, but a lot happens in 6 years. So it's amazing where you're at now. And I'm really excited that you're here talking to me and telling everybody what you guys do. So, tell us about your background. I mean, I only know you from when you started at Farmington, and you were working well, at that time it was Northside, right? Was the name of the restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
So you're working at Northside, and we got to work together on the line a couple of times. I think you bailed me out a couple of times from going down, which I won't forget, and I'm not afraid to admit it. But yeah, tell us about your background, where you started in the industry, why you started in the industry, and kind of what happened along the way.
Well, I honestly didn't think I was going to be in this industry. There wasn't really any plan to do it. But late in high school, I started, I guess, watching Food Network late at night, and then watching shows like Good Eats and Iron Chef America. It just really intrigued me. And I really just couldn't take my eyes off of it, and just seeing what they could do in just an hour. I mean, obviously, now that I know it's TV and a lot of it's edited, but back then, just to see what you could do with food, it really interested me. So I wanted to go to college. I knew that, but I didn't want to just get a culinary degree. I heard that you could possibly get pigeonholed if that's the only degree that you have. So I decided to go to UVA for music, and just go ahead and get a bachelor's degree in that, just to have something to fall back on, just in case I didn't know where this career was going to take me. I worked a couple of jobs when I was in high school. Helped out at the baseball diamonds for the bands. There was a local bistro, kind of like down the street of my house. That was kind of my first job. And then I got to work at Cheesecake Factory, And that was kind of like my first big restaurant job, just to see how big of an operation and scale that is. And I still don't think I've worked in a kitchen as big as that one, especially as big as their menu is. But it definitely got me with the itch to
Sure.
just start learning more as I can. And to be perfectly honest, once I left UVA and then I was looking for culinary jobs, Farmington was kind of like one of the very first ones I looked at. And kind of glad that I did it now, because it was probably one of the best equivalents to a culinary school that I could find.
Sure.
Kind of like started at the grill, then went over to Northside, and you said went to Saucier, so kind of like progressed in a nice ladder fashion. So I wasn't too overwhelmed at the beginning. And then I knew that's kind of like what I wanted to do in terms of that lifestyle. Because one thing, like I'm sure you know, as especially being an early cook or a chef, and this is the industry that you want to be in, is that it's more of a lifestyle than it is a job. You get out as much as you put into it. Are you gonna take your days off and study? Are you gonna learn and teach yourself? Because no one is going to do that for you.
Sure. Absolutely.
Is what so just the fact that this industry just really brings, there's a lot of challenges in terms of it could be artistic, it could be scientific, there's a business side of it, there's a hospitality side of it. There's always something new to it. So I didn't want to get pigeonholed into like a cubicle and just have to do the same thing over and over. So it's almost every day is like there's something else that you really learn, especially even gardening, maintenance. That's a quick one. But yeah, it's kind of my background.
So did you get a bachelor's degree in music?
I did.
You did.
I haven't done anything with it, but
so you
I have it in the background in this case.
All right. So I was a music major for a little while. I didn't graduate. I didn't get the degree, but so you get a bachelor's degree in music, a 4-year degree, I assume, right? And then you decide, I'm going to cook. Like, what was it that went on in your head that made you go in that direction instead of pursuing music?
Even before I decided to enroll for the music degree, I kind of thought about cooking. More so, the music degree was just there in case something didn't work out, or if I wanted to continue to go in that direction, say in the future. One thing I did learn about music is that it's very challenging to get at the top. There's a lot of prodigies. Say people that have perfect pitch. That's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
And it was something that I grew up loving, because I went to band in middle school, and that's where I kind of first started getting into music. But then I realized I was using my off time to study cooking instead of music. So that's when I kind of realized, like, if I'm gonna be doing something, I might as well do something that I love and can do on my off time as well.
Yeah, no, that's important. It's what gets you up in the morning, and if reading cookbooks was that for you, then it sounds like you made the right choice. Do you ever, any point of your career, that you regretted your choice?
Up until COVID? No, not really. It's currently what we're going through right now is a bit of a challenge, and I'm honestly really interested to see where the restaurant industry is at a year from now. I am lucky to still be cooking in a restaurant that is open and that is still serving guests high quality food. So as of right now, there's no regrets. But if say robots are cooking all the meals 20 years from now, I was like, maybe could have gone down that accountant route.
Yeah, yeah. So what has COVID done? How are things in Louisville? Am I saying that right? I know you guys are serious about how people say that. Is it Louisville?
I
Louisville.
mean,
It
I'm
sounds
not from
very
here, so
sounds
I
very
think it's
throaty
Louisville.
to me.
It's not. I think it's not Louisville, but just Louisville, I
Louisville.
believe.
Got it. So what has it been like there in the various stages of COVID? I mean, how much has it decimated the restaurant scene there?
Um, well, some notable restaurants have closed um, because of it. Um, it's hard to maintain the quality that you are doing with trying to cut staff as much as you can. Some restaurants were better set up than others if they had takeout. If it was a sit-down restaurant only and they didn't have patio seating, then it's a lot more challenging for them. Luckily, we do have a patio and we can do some outdoor seating, but we, I believe, are still currently around 50% capacity. Early in August, we were at 25%. So it's as a small restaurant, it's challenging to see the light at the end of the tunnel, especially when we're only at 25% capacity. We're not doing more than 20 people a night to keep on going just for the sake of it.
Sure.
In terms of other challenges in Louisville, I know you've heard of Breonna Taylor.
Yeah, sure.
All those protests that have been going on. And those have been going down in downtown Louisville. So, and there was also a protest on Derby near Churchill Downs, and we're just a couple of minutes away from there as well. So, Louisville has had a bit of a challenge in terms of trying to get everybody in the city on the same page and behind the same goal. I know this week they are going to officially announce the decision about the officers on Breonna Taylor.
Right.
And I know that's going, and I know people downtown have already been getting prepared for that, boarding up windows,
Sure.
just because you don't know what's going to happen, especially we hear sometimes that like there's outside groups of protesters coming in out of town and trying to disrupt things. So, especially with, I think, how media has made COVID so political as well. Just getting behind everybody wearing masks going into businesses.
Right.
It's just there's a lot of tension
Sure.
right now with everything. Some restaurants are not wanting to go down anymore. Say if spikes go up, just because they can't afford to,
Right.
and they would rather take that risk to stay open just to keep their business alive.
Sure.
And who can blame them at this point?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of challenges that COVID has brought, and I'm just in one area of it. I'm sure New York is going through its own challenge. I think restaurants are just starting to open back up now at limited capacity, but I can't imagine how many of those restaurants are not going to open back up. And then with the whole PPP and the bailout going out, and you see these big name restaurants like Ruth Chris get two $10 million loans when they're a publicly traded company. You see the Los Angeles Lakers get $4.2 million. And then you see these small businesses that just asked for about $20,000 and they can't get it. It's a little disheartening to see the really small businesses kind of get screwed the most.
Yeah, absolutely.
But The number one goal and challenge that I've tried to do is try to stay as positive as you can and just move forward. You almost have to will positivity in this climate, or else you're just going to get sucked into that vacuum of misery and depression.
Yeah, for sure. So that brings me kind of to the staff morale part of it. How many people are working in the kitchen at 610?
Currently, right now, we have three. Me, a hotline cook, and a pastry and cold line cook.
Right.
Have say like Edward or Kevin, who was a former executive chef. He's going to go open up a restaurant in Cincinnati right now. They can help whenever we do get busy, and we do have, say, some parties across the street. Right now, it's pretty much no more than, like, say, 5 people in the kitchen on a busy night.
Yeah. Now, what was that number pre-pandemic?
It was a little like there's typically 2 people on hot side, 2 people on cold side, an expo, and then potentially a party person. So it could have been 6 to 7.
Wow.
But we're not even doing the numbers to even what's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean, you're just not able to keep everybody on board. Are people furloughed right now, or are they laid off indefinitely, or what? How has that been handled?
Um, for the most part, the people that couldn't find a job ended up finding something else.
Sure.
We also use a local culinary school for some interns for some help. So sometimes we'll have them, sometimes we won't.
Right.
But I know Milkwood has closed, which is one of the 3 restaurants Edward had in here in Louisville. And then, so it's just us and Whiskey Dry right now. So the people that were at Milkwood, unfortunately, were let go. And I don't think there is, I don't know if I can say if there's any plans to open it back up in this climate. There is a possibility, but I'm not even sure at this point.
Right. Now, you guys, 610 Magnolia is known for kind of more innovative dishes and I would say higher end scale. And you guys started doing these bento boxes. Was that like was that a product of COVID for takeout, or is that something that you guys always did and just adapted it for takeout, or how does that work?
So across the street, we have this building that has a private event space. We call it the Wine Studio, and we can hold up to 35 people for dinners. There's also a courtyard for there if people wanted to do kind of like a cocktail party.
Right.
So we've always used that space to do kind of other dinners besides our tasting menu. And we typically do a newsletter that has special dinners. We've done vegan dinners, pasta dinners, French wine dinners, Italian wine dinners, pizza dinners, stuff like that.
Right.
And just to give people something else to kind of come out to. I know Edward has done bento boxes, dinners in the past, and I think this was just something that he brought back, because also the fact that you have your own individual box, nothing's family style, would be appealing to people that were a little bit hesitant about coming back out.
Sure.
To restaurant COVID. So I guess you could say it was a little bit product of both. But we have done bento boxes in the past. But it's just a fun little party that people can do. But it's kind of like an option. Sometimes the dinners are on specific dates, and then there's other times like you can just call and ask for something specific, such as like if they want to do a big roast or if they want to do a wedding dinner. We'll try to cater as much as we can to them.
Sure. Yeah, that's cool. I think the versatility is really cool, and I think we're seeing a lot of versatility in some pretty major restaurants around the country. I mean, Alinea just announced that they're doing Thanksgiving takeout. Um, I mean, it speaks volumes to, the amount of knowledge that goes into what chefs know. Obviously we have to pick a theme and we have to pick a direction and a concept for a restaurant.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that we're necessarily only able to cook that kind of food. And I think one of the there are a few cool things and positive things that are coming out of this pandemic, and one of them for me is the public, the general public, who's not really in tune, maybe doesn't fully understand what we go through to train to be able to cook the food that we do. They're starting to see, like, Alinea is going to cook turkey dinners. I'm sure they're going to put their twist on it, but they're not above that. A lot of fine dining restaurants are transforming into burger takeout restaurants and pizza takeout restaurants and all these different concepts that you never thought these chefs or these names would start producing. And when the world needs us the most, and we find out that we're essential employees, which is kind of nice to hear, but also I think we're discovering some imbalance there as well. But finding out that we're so essential, and everybody now seeing, like, hey, this guy doesn't just do this, or this girl, is capable of way more than what her restaurant theme says. And I hope people are appreciative of that, and kind of impressed by that. And it opens people's eyes to how much knowledge there is involved in what we do. And it's not just, if you watch a couple of years of Food Network, then all of a sudden you can call yourself an expert on food. So I think that's kind of cool. I think that's one of the positives that's come from all this, and it's just cool to see how everybody's getting creative, thinking outside the box. And speaking of outside the box, and I only bring this up because it just popped up in my Facebook feed today. So the executive chef of 610 Magnolia, Jeff Potter, you're going to people's houses and actually delivering food for a couple of days?
No, it's a local thing that a lot of the chefs are doing, kind of
Uh-huh.
like once a week. And you're just making this bag, kind of like swag bag of the restaurants, and that is pretty much like $50 to buy, and $25 of it goes to I believe Apron Incorporated, as kind of like a donation.
Nice.
So just a big donation for kind of like um, all the restaurants struggling and kind of like the industry. So just doing what we can do to kind of like help out as we can.
Sure. Yeah. It's kind of like, I guess, a collaborative effort. Then it's not something exclusive to your restaurant.
No, yeah, it's Marvetti did it last week, and then we're doing it this week, and then I think it's up until the end of November that
Okay.
chefs are doing it. Um, so we just decided to do some beef bulgogi lettuce wraps. You also get a $25 gift certificate to 610, and then a bottle of Edward Lee hot sauce.
Nice. Do you actually do the Vanna White thing that I saw in the Facebook thing? Because you were really kind of selling the display there. Is that part of the deal, or you just drop it and go?
That was just me doing a photo shoot to help promote it and following the photographers.
Got it.
Instructions.
So, you're at 610 and you started there. What was your position when you started there?
I started over on cold side,
Yeah.
kind of garbage day, and then about a month in, I went to the hot side, kind of the flat top station.
Mm-hmm.
A month in, went to the saute position, and then kind of just been I was kind of like lead line cook, and then kind of just try to take over as sous chef and just help as much as I can with other parts of the company moving. Whiskey Dry opened, so then Kevin went up to the culinary director of all the restaurants in Louisville, which made the chef scene spot open for 610, and then just decided to work and then just try my best to try to figure it out, get better. And then with Kevin opening up Cora next month, leaves the executive chef position open. So
Nice.
it's kind of just from the bottom up.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Good for you. So, I always wonder, and I'm sure a lot of people listening wonder, the restaurant 610 Magnolia is an Edward Lee restaurant, and he's, James Beard Award winner, the mind of a chef, and he's doing the Lee Initiative, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Incredible impact on the culinary world, and a huge name in the industry. So he's got all these restaurants. He's got restaurants in DC and Louisville. He's in Maryland also. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So he's kind of all over the place. Most people in the industry know who he is, and 610 Magnolia certainly has a reputation that precedes itself. But he's the headliner. He is the guy who is the brains behind the concept, and the concept wouldn't exist without him. But it's always fascinating to me that behind that name is the team. There is an executive chef of the restaurant, and I don't think it's common enough for people to really meet those people and know how that is. So, like, the first question is, what's it like being the executive chef of a place that has such a big headline name there? Is it as cool as I imagine, or is there some other stuff that comes along with it?
I would say it's pretty cool in the fact that you get a lot of different guests, and just because we're a small restaurant and Edward Lee restaurant, we were kind of a destination restaurant. So a lot of people travel around the country. Sometimes they do a bourbon tasting down the Bourbon Trail and decide they want to have dinner here. Sometimes we'll get somebody from California that said they flew out just to eat here. That's kind of mind-boggling to me from my point of view, but I can understand, like, just because of how much media exposure Edward's had,
Sure.
how much people know him, they're willing to do all that. He can come into the dining room and pretty much just like make everybody happy just for the fact of his presence, and go to tables and either take pictures or sign cookbooks. So seeing people get that reaction makes my job a little bit easier.
Sure.
When he's here, because it instantly makes them happy. I would say the biggest challenge, though, is the expectations that come with that restaurant, or that type of restaurant, just because people come and they eat at an Edward Lee restaurant. They don't really know Jeff Potter, or really who's in the back, or who even care about who the dishwasher is, making sure that everything's good to go for them. So I honestly don't mind not really being in the spotlight. That's never been a priority or a reason why I got into cooking, or even why I came to this restaurant. More the allure to this restaurant of why I came to it was my mother is South Korean, so the South of the kind of like Korean Southern fusion. I didn't really see many other restaurants doing it, so I felt like that was almost like my type of cuisine. So I wanted to see kind of what one of the best restaurants in the city or in the country is doing for that type of cuisine. So that's kind of like what led me here. But having Edward here and having even just like say his resources is a great help, because he knows a lot of purveyors that I haven't heard of, and can get some great ingredients from that I've never worked with. So it's challenging on both sides to hit the expectation of kind of like greatness, and making sure that people just didn't travel across the country for a mediocre meal. But I also honestly like that pressure. I feel like I do better in high pressure situations,
Right.
and something's on the line. It just makes it, I guess, feel more meaningful at the end that you did it.
Sure. So how much input do you have with menu development and the creative process?
Great deal. I pretty much, I would say 80% of the menu is me. There's a couple of dishes that I really can't change, or I would say have become signatures here. So there's no really point of changing it. So say we have a bourbon aficionado dessert that's been on here since I've ever been here, and it's always a crowd pleaser. So if it works, every day if it ain't broken, I fix it.
Yeah, sure.
And then the amuse-bouche is the 610 BLT, and that's kind of an ode to Edward, because he always started his shifts with the BLT. So it's a way for the guests to kind of like start the night like you're eating with Edward. So those couple of things I can't really change, but I don't really want to change just because they're such a signature for the restaurant. But in terms of the actual menu development, yeah, I have a great deal of input.
Nice. That's
and then
awesome.
I basically just run it by Edward, see if he has any input to say, and then it goes on.
Nice. Is there like a big tasting that happens before you come out with new items, or is it just, roll with it?
We'll roll with it in terms if we're just kind of like changing garnishes. Say we're changing like sunchokes to potatoes, something like that. In terms of changing the actual dish, we try to do develop the dish within a week, and then do the tasting. Say we're open on Tuesdays. We typically do wine pairings tastings as well, just to make sure that it does go with it. There could be funky flavors. I know kimchis are a difficult thing to pair with. And then honestly, like I am for doing a kind of like a beverage tasting menu, or pairing with it that has cocktails and beers. It doesn't have to strictly be wine. Sometimes we do have beers or a cocktail pairings with it, which are fun. Say more shandies in the summer.
Sure.
Can do like more stout in the winter, just to try to change it up a bit. Though I know there are some people that are strictly wine. They don't want to deviate from that, and so we always try to have something available for them as well.
Sure. So here's kind of a different kind of question here. Now you're not allowed to be in the COVID world when I ask you this question. Okay, so pretend there is no global pandemic. What do you wish was different about the industry?
Good question. I would say, in all honesty, the respect for the workers.
Respect from who?
I would say from the customers, in terms of knowing that everything is not always possible. You can't always get the freshest ingredients every single day and be cost effective with it. In terms of just knowing that, say, servers are humans too. They're not just the person that just brings you the food. Um, what you said earlier about the fact that now we're essential workers, I think people are a little bit more understanding about that now, and know that kind of like what the average person goes through. I think that say companies like Amazon have made things way too convenient for the average consumer and the average American, especially when Prime 2-day shipping became a thing. I remember growing up, it was 4 to 6 weeks.
Right.
Now it's kind of like expedited. Now people expect things in almost immediately in terms of convenience. And that's also gone to the restaurant industry, seeing 24-hour places. It's not always easy for the business to do stuff like that. And when they try to be as accommodating to customers, and still people will complain they have to wait too long, or it's not up to par, or why are they paying this price? I think that more understanding from them, and I don't want to bash customers, because they are the lifeblood of all restaurants.
Sure.
And not all of them I'm talking about are like that. I'm fortunate to work at a restaurant that has really understanding customers. But I know and I know you said not in a COVID world, but when, say, like grocery store workers were trying to be as accommodating as they can, they got a lot of backlash from customers and people thinking that they always know what's right. And maybe that's one challenge too, say in a fine dining restaurant, is that there's a lot of terms that people may not know, and to try to educate them is almost insulting to them sometimes, because they think they know.
Sure.
Especially say like, oh, this is a medium rare steak, and it could be perfectly cooked and they want it up cooked. But there's no point of arguing with them. You want to, the whole point we're in this industry because of hospitality, we want to try to please them as much as possible. But some appreciation for not say just the head chef or the general manager, but for the busboy or for the dishwasher, is I think there could be more understanding behind that.
Yeah,
Like,
sure. A lot of people, a lot of people don't get that, because they don't see the kitchen, right? They sit down and they want dinner or lunch or whatever it is. They order their food and they just expect that they're going to get it, as quickly as possible and correct and all that jazz. But they don't get that. There is a crew that needs to be paid to wash the silverware and the plateware. The glassware needs to be washed. The kitchen needs to be cleaned by a crew, whether it's the cooks or the dishwashers or a combination of both. The servers, the bussers, the runners, the managers. I mean, there are so many moving parts from a labor perspective. And you're right. We are in a very on-demand generation now, and things like Amazon are a big part of that. I think the restaurant industry has been like that for a while now, and maybe has gotten a little bit worse over the years. But you're right. It's it's not about bashing customers. I think it's more, there are the great guests that come in and are understanding and get it. And every restaurant, every operation has some percentage of guests that show up once in a while that are just a little bit impractical. And what I try to explain to people is we might be the only industry, and if we're not the only one, we're one of a very few that is tasked with the responsibility to produce a product by hand from scratch to order all day, every day. You can't walk up to somebody on the street and say, hey, bang me out a pair of Nikes and just get it. It doesn't work that way with any other product. But that's what we do, and people, sometimes people show up and, they want to eat, and that's when they want to eat. And I showed up, 30 minutes ago, and I still don't have my food. And I feel fortunate too, to be at a place where I don't deal with a whole lot of that. But, you kind of think about it and you're like, if you wanted to eat right now, then you should have gotten here 30 minutes ago and you would be eating right now. It's like
I feel
that
for
belief. What's
fast
that?
food. I feel the worst for, say, fast food workers, because when all the restaurants closed, people were just going to them because that was the only thing open,
Sure.
and they were short staffed, and people were complaining that they were waiting 30 minutes for fast food. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
what do you expect? You can go cook it yourself, or if and if they're the only restaurant or cooking happening, like, kind of have to go by their pace, even though it might not be ideal.
Sure.
They're not having that much fun either.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it speaks volumes too, to that point. When a company like McDonald's has to limit their drive-through menu
Mhm.
and actually make it smaller to be able to shave like 2 minutes off the wait time to make sure that everybody's happy, and they can do the volume, obviously, but to mitigate some of those complaints that people have. You got to ask yourself, like, what's going on here. It's kind of like, we're essential, and we get that. There are a lot of issues to deal with there now that we know that we're essential. Definitely some imbalances have come to light with that, but it's also, and believe me, I want to have job security like anybody, and I'm grateful that I know how to cook and that people will always need to eat, and
Mhm.
I will, hopefully always have a job or be able to find a job at any given point because of that. So, I'm not trying to say, like, I'm ungrateful for people going out to eat, because I am truly grateful, and I want them to keep going out. But there is a little bit of interest I have in the fact that, you know, we are essential, like restaurants are essential. There are people that just do not know how to cook. And it's a little bit scary, I mean, when you think about history and where we came from, and people, our ancestors living off the land and being able to take care of themselves. And you flash forward to now, and there are literally people who just they might not survive, if they couldn't come out to a restaurant. And that's pretty crazy to me. I mean, I feel like that's something that needs to be addressed. When you walk through the supermarket, guys like us walk through the supermarket at the beginning of COVID, everybody's freaking out because all these things aren't on the shelf anymore. But
Mhm.
then I look at the things that are still on the shelf, and I'm like, I'm fine with this.
Oh, of
We
course.
can we can make a meal with this. But the first thing that goes is all the flour. Like all of a sudden everybody's baking bread. I
All
mean,
the ground
there
beef.
there must have been so much shitty bread flying around this country at the beginning of COVID. I can't even imagine. But I think people, I'm grateful that they come to us, and I'm happy to cook for people, and it's a beautiful thing. But this is kind of eye-opening with regard to people who really truly rely on that for their nourishment. And if you're in that situation and you feel like, you have to go out to eat, and that's great, for us, um, go out to eat, but be a little bit understanding. Don't make it our problem that, all of a sudden you need to eat right now. So I get what you're saying. And I also understand what you say when you say you don't want to, we don't want to sound like we're complaining about the customers. We love the customer. We love the
Oh, yeah.
guest. And that's why we do this. You know, if it weren't for you, we wouldn't get as much enjoyment out of it. But, you know, a cooking class wouldn't hurt. You know, that's all I'm saying. One or two cooking classes wouldn't hurt.
Well, that's like interesting. It's like say with Blue Apron and all those like kits that people can take home and then basically just watch a YouTube video. It's like is that going to become the future? Because the one thing I'm interested in is say like when the vaccine comes out, is that going to make people come out even more, or is it so political now that when the vaccine comes out, they think like, oh no, I'm not gonna take this because the government doesn't want me, and then we can't get past this pandemic for another couple of months. I'm kind of really interested to see like how quickly we can get back to. I don't know if we're gonna get back to exactly where we were, but at least get back to on the up.
Sure. Yeah, I'm with you, man. So, you know, where do you let's pretend that, you know, it's a year from now or however long COVID is gone, everything settles down, things go back to whatever normal is going to be. You know, where do you go from here? I mean, you're the executive chef of a very prominent restaurant. You could pretty much go wherever you want. What are you thinking? I mean, do you continue in the small restaurant world? Are you thinking about opening your own thing one day, or?
It's always on the back of your mind what the next step is. I try to keep myself, I guess, as open as possible, just because you don't know what opportunities are going to come down the line. So I don't want to say like, oh, in 5 years from now, I'm going to be here, and then something happens 3 years from now, and then blows that all up. I would say, in all honesty, that for the past 10 years, I've been more career-driven. I think maybe my next move might be more personal-driven, just to see if I can get more, I don't want to say time off to develop a personal life, and then potentially build a family. But that's always challenging to anybody in this industry. I like the appeal of small restaurants, just because you can have more of, I guess, your signature on them. However, I understand the business side of larger restaurants. They come with larger paychecks. I don't know if that's something that would interest me more down the line. Maybe if I had a couple of kids, a larger paycheck would be more beneficial.
Sure.
But that's kind of the challenge, because my goal was to succeed here, but I didn't really have my next step plans after that. So it's kind of up in the air right now. I'm happy where I am right now. I see myself being here for at least a couple more years. But in terms of the next step, I think it's going to be more personal driven, and more favorable schedule. And I don't know if I'll still be in Louisville or if another city opens up that I love. I would love to travel more.
Sure.
To kind of see kind of like what's out there in terms of restaurants. I would love to learn from a Michelin star restaurant. But I in my heart of hearts, I know that like eventually you can do as much learning as possible, but eventually you just gotta take the leap, and you just gotta put yourself out there. You just gotta say, this is my food. and you either like it or you don't. It's it's it will be a tough leap because I know people come here already with the illusion of Edward Lee, and they already expect delicious food.
Right.
But in terms of you could always be the sous chef at a 3 Michelin star restaurant. You can always be a line cook. You can always learn more because you're never going to learn everything there needs to know about food.
Sure.
That's one thing I've learned. I learned quick is there is so much about food that you just can't learn it all.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I see myself trying to trying to better my own happiness. Not to say that I'm not happy right now, but that's the kind of like path that I would go down is wherever makes me more happy, whether that be a smaller town or a large restaurant. Time will tell.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's the chef's American dream, right? To find balance and a life outside of the kitchen. So that's what we're all striving for.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cool. So real quick, I just want to touch on, I can't talk about, any of the Edward Lee properties without recognizing the Lee Initiative. And I know that you're not intimately involved with the execution of Lee Initiative, but you know more about it than I do. And I want to make sure, people hear about what's going on there. So Edward created Lee Initiative, and it's, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, it's helping local farms, local businesses. Why don't you kind of pick up on that for me?
So, yeah, Edward and Lindsay Ofsasic created the Lee Initiative. It originally started as it was called the Smoke and Soul Initiative, and it was just to try to get local kids some experience at the restaurants, and then try to just get some of them experience in the business world as well, to just try to help out the local community as much as possible. And then when the Me Too movement happened, and it hit restaurants hard, Edwards and Lindsay's response was to start a Women Chefs of Kentucky program, which finds 5 local young culinarian women, and then mentors them with mentorship at another city with a famous female chef, and then they get to do a dinner at the James Beard House.
Nice.
And that went on for that was 2 years ago. We just had our 3rd class this year until the COVID happened. So Lindsay found a great way to pivot those funds. And actually, Maker's Mark helped us out too in securing some funds to help out with some relief kitchens. It first started in Louisville, and basically anybody that had a restaurant stub or proof that you worked at a restaurant, you would come, you would get a free meal. We also handed out supplies such as diapers, toilet paper, paper towels, body soap, hand soap, food, cereal, and just trying to get as many donations from the city as possible. And then it grew to, I want to say, close to 15 to 20 cities around the country.
Wow.
Of relief kitchens. She was able to secure funding for that. And there's some in Los Angeles and Seattle, New York, Nashville, Chicago, as many places as we could possibly hit. And now the next step of that program is to help reopen these restaurants with some of the local farms. So they're taking 2 restaurants in each city that are minority owned or are owned by women, and using 2 of their favorite farms and trying to provide funding so they don't have to shut down and they can continue getting from the local farms. It's grown immensely in the past couple of months from what it initially was. I know now. We're still running relief kitchens with the McAtee Relief Kitchen, named after David McAtee, who was unfortunately shot down during the protests, and that was just a way to honor him. And the amazing thing is the person that's running that was one of the first people in the Smoke and Soul initiative, and was actually part of the first class of the women chefs of Kentucky, Nakia Rhodes. And it's amazing to see how much she's grown into a leader.
Yeah, I bet.
And she's currently a culinary instructor at a high school. So it's nice to see the community of chefs across the country just come together for the same cause. We're all kind of on the same page of we just want to help out the workers, help out the local people that aren't able to get supplies or food. So it was really encouraging to see how many people stepped up and volunteered and just made it happen. Really.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really cool initiative. And I poked around on the website last week, and it's pretty enormous. I mean, there's a lot of different kind of divisions of the Lee Initiative, and it's pretty impressive and really cool to see, somebody like Edward Lee kind of using their clout in the industry and their name to give back and do really good things for others in the industry. So that's awesome. So that is, if anybody wants to check that out, you would go to leeinitiative.org. Check out the website. It's really cool. I mean, there's so many different directions that they're going to help people out, and it's pretty impressive. Certainly, if you're interested to be a part of that, just check out leeinitiative.org. You can find out everything you need to know to contribute if you're interested. Jeff, that's pretty much our time. I want to thank you again. I'm super proud of you, man. I mean, it's awesome to see where you are now, and I know you're in the right place because I knew you 6 years ago when I started at Farmington, and you had that passion for food. You had the passion for the science of food. So it's not surprising to me that you are where you are now, and I couldn't be happier for you.
Well, I would say I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for you and Charlie helping me out. So.
Oh, thanks, man. I mean, that means a lot.
I appreciate that as well.
Yeah, no, man. That's what it's all about. Paying it forward. And I know you, and I know you're going to do the same for people that are working for you. I see you give recognition. You're not on social media a whole lot, but I have seen you give recognition to some people.
Hard to get into.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. But I have seen you give some recognition to your team, and that's really cool. Because we couldn't do it without them.
Oh,
so that's awesome.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, man.
Nothing without my team.
No way, man. I wouldn't be able to be speaking to you right now if I didn't have a team holding down dinner service tonight. So yeah, man, it's all good stuff. Well, thanks again, Chef. You are officially episode 2 of Kitchen Brain Podcast. And,
nice.
Maybe in a little while, maybe season 2, we can do a follow up and see where you're at, see where things are. We might be, hopefully we're post COVID by then, and we can talk about it. But thanks again, man. Stay safe out there and stay in touch. Keep me posted on what's going on, all the cool things you guys are doing. And I probably will call you and ask if you can get me an interview with the man one day. But we'll see. I'm happy to talk to you, and I'm glad you were able to share your story with everybody. And it's good stuff, man. So take care, stay safe, and we'll talk soon, man.